people of Earth, welcome to another exciting episode of Adwit, the audio drama writer's independent toolkit. Hooray! And hello, I'm Sarah Golding.
I'm Lindsay Harris-Friel, and I'm very embarrassed.
Oh, why are you embarrassed? Why?
I'm a writer, not a sound engineer, and when I recorded my side of the last two episodes, they were just bad.
Oh, come on now, Lindsay. You can't be ridiculous. How bad could it possibly be?
Yeah, well, I didn't have my headphones monitoring the sound properly, and I left the metronome on.
Oh, yeah, that's not good, I guess. No.
Nope. It's funny how you can spend the majority of your week thinking about your podcast, doing the research, planning, getting up to speed on best practices and all that. And as soon as I get in front of a microphone, I am on the express train to Rookie Palooza.
But that's what I'm here for.
This is why we make a good team, because you have more experience with recording.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm any better at it, but I'm having some fun, right? And I'm going to try and get us back on track.
Please do, but not the express train to Rookie Palooza.
Don't worry, okay? It's fine. You just concentrate on the writing thing and we will get this done. So, once again, this is Adwit, the audio drama's writer's independent toolkit. Yes, each week we will discuss an aspect of audio drama coupled with some examples of audio drama podcasts which use this aspect in an interesting, exciting, inspiring way. And then we're not only to do that, we're going to give you, our lovely audience, a writing exercise that you can use to play along at home or wherever it is you listen. Are you better now? Is that better?
Yes, thank
you.
you.
We're on track. And we would also very much like right now to thank our wonderful listeners in Poland. Hello. We found out through Podchaser that the Adwit podcast made it to number 14 on the Apple podcast charts for fiction in Poland. So, Lindsay, should we just say a woo? Thank you for listening in Polish. Ready? Dziękujemy za Suzana. Za słuchania.
Dziękujemy za słuchania.
I think that's it. Dziękujemy za słuchania. I think we've got it, Lindsay. I think that's what it is.
That's the best I can do. I will learn. I will learn and I will record it. Okay.
But we're making an effort because we love our listeners in Poland and across the world.
Well, they're really kind to us because they also reached out on Twitter and said nice things to, like, hey, I'm one of your Polish listeners. And
yes.
So thank you very much.
So nice to know. We're
to
not
our
just,
listeners
just
in
talking
Poland.
in the void. And on top of that, some wonderful reviews have started to come in. Thank you, Stephen Ingersano, and to Fiona Thrale for your wonderful words of encouragement that folks should listen to this podcast to enhance and inspire them to write more exciting audio fiction. So, where are we at? Thank
Reviews
you.
are great because they make us realize that we're not doing this for nothing.
Oh, it does help, right?
Yeah, they make you realize that you're not just podcasting into the void.
Void. Yes, so what are we talking about today, Lindsay? What are we going to do to inspire folks?
So today, in this episode of the Adwit podcast, we are going to talk about character.
Character. Yes, I do. I do love creating characters for audio drama, I must say. Vocally and in a writing way. Yes.
Especially because one of the great things about audio drama is that you're not bound by the laws of biology, physics, or genetics when it comes to your characters.
But what about sci-fi? There's science in that, isn't there? And for everything in the world, in the universe known, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So, if you're not bound by science, what are we bound by? Chaos?
Well, with your writing style, maybe.
And my dress sense too. Yes, fair point.
So with creating a character, you do have to think about limitations. Characters are like rubber bands. If you put enough tension on them, they can go flying off in some other direction. Yeah. But if you focus that tension, you know more about where they are likely to go.
Depends where you put those elastic bands, doesn't it, really?
Yeah. So, for example, in Socks of Rising Season 2, self-plug, I wrote Ratatoskr, who is a Norse mythological squirrel that runs up and down the length of Yggdrasil, the world tree. And Ratatoskr has to deal with the fact that there is a snake in the roots of the tree and a eagle at the top of the tree. So he has to run up and down the tree to avoid being a snack for either one.
Yeah.
And he also has to give both the eagle and the snake a good reason to let him stay alive. So he has to bring really good gossip between the two of them. So he's constantly trying to get good news, and he has to be fast, he has to be funny, he has to be smart and clever, and he has to be constantly gathering information.
Yeah.
So he sort of thinks with his nose. He was this character who would go all the time because he's trying to keep himself alive.
Yeah.
Another great example is the podcast Everything is Alive.
I love
If you
that.
haven't heard it, please
good fun.
go and listen right now.
Inanimate objects
Yes.
brought to life. Yeah.
Yes. It's interviews with different inanimate objects. The opening episode is an interview with a can of soda.
Yes.
We get very used to the idea of, I can write the impossible. And when you get too used to that, you end up writing a lot of robots and artificial intelligences because they can help you move the plot forward easily.
This is it. The ways in to moving things is so key. And there are so many. I mean, we could be here for a couple of weeks listing robots and AIs in audio fiction right now. Yeah.
I think they should probably have their own series.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was excited, I must say, to see Drunk Hill and have a stint under the very sweary Scottish podcast until David Alt took over, the absolute legend. And did you hear Escape as well? I enjoyed doing that. That was last year by the amazing Robert Tinsey. And I was the only human character in that one. The other voices were actual real Amazon AI voices, Amazon Polly, and I could never remember the other one. Name.
Alexa?
Don't say that. Everyone's things are going ping.
Oh, no.
Listen to AdWit podcast. There you go. Maybe that works.
You know what? I just remembered what it was.
Yeah.
Lost Terminal.
Oh.
Lost Terminal is a sci-fi podcast about different satellites communicating with each other and trying to figure out what happens when they stop getting news from Earth.
Oh. Sounds groovy. I'll look that up. I don't know that one. Super duper. I mean, and I must say though, with other things I've done, with that Escape, I was hugely worried about folks not realizing that I was the actual human character and the others were AIs because they sounded so groovy. But yeah. And
well, I think also people are used to hearing anytime you call to, get a prescription refill or call your doctor's office or buy tickets for a show or something, there's always that press 1. If this is a true emergency, please call 911. Press 1 to speak to an agent. Press 2 para español, continuar en español. There's so many of these phone trees.
There's such a vast array of things. And I think a lot of people sort of tend to write outside of their knowledge base, don't they? And I do think it's important to just say here now as well that I have utilised, for example, the superb sensitivity readers that have made themselves known in the audio fiction community for various things. And for example, I had some fantastic help from the wonderful @Snarkylicious, who you can find on Twitter. I was doing a script which had various issues revolving around people of colour characters, and obviously I have had not the inside experience of that. So I was able to get some fantastic advice and just pointing me in the right direction with regards to attitude and intent and so on. And that's from GP Mackenzie, who, if you want to employ them, please do. You can just put a plea out onto the Audio Drama Hub if you're looking for a sensitivity reader for a specific reason. And I'm certain there'll be a load of people who would love to be useful and help you out.
You can also contact us at the Fiction Podcast Weekly, which Sarah and I both edit.
Yes.
If you reach out to us, if you go to thepodcasthost.com/fictionpodcastweekly, there's a form there. You can fill it out and just check off opportunities and auditions and put in there that you're looking for a sensitivity reader and some contact information.
Great. Please do.
And that would be another good way to find a sensitivity reader.
Yes.
If you're looking to create characters that are not the same kind of person that you are, or who has particular issues that they have to deal with, for example, being deaf and hard of hearing, or being blind, or having limited seeing ability. There's a great website called writingtheother.com. They have classes and all kinds of resources that will help you get more information so that you can learn, for example, how to write. Right now I'm taking a class which is diverse narrative structures, and it's taught by Henry Land. He's got this great young adult series of books that's really popular. I do want to touch on different narrative structures, but not today because we're going to talk about characters.
We are.
But yeah, it is really sad when we have audio dramas where all the voices sound alike. And we'll also talk about this in dialogue later. The point is, the more unique your characters are, the more memorable they are. And it's easier for your audience to follow the plot.
Yep.
And it's easier for your podcast to stick in their heads.
Yes.
And be memorable. Now, how do we create memorable and unique characters?
Okay, we could start by writing down 100 different character types maybe on paper, like screw them all up and throw them in a saucepan, and then I'll throw that up in the air, and whichever name types that you catch, Lindsay, we can use. Yes? That work?
No.
No? That's a good party game though, isn't it?
I would play that game. Basically, the best way to start really is a character profile worksheet. You can find these all over the internet.
Awesome.
The website writersadwit.com has one, and I will put a link in the show notes. It's basically writersadwit.com character profile. I use one from a book called The Playwright's Process by Buzz McLaughlin.
Oh, to the character list and beyond.
He does have a great name, doesn't he?
He does.
He really sounds like he should be piloting a rocket ship. But find one you like, fill one out for each character, and you want to know your characters as vividly as you think you know people that you went to elementary school with. Another fun way to do this is to find a dating site like Match.com or something and fill out a dating profile for your character, but don't publish it, for God's sakes.
Oh, wait, I've been doing that wrong. Okay, hang on. Okay, so can you do me, please, Lindsay? What would my character profile say on a dating site?
Spontaneous, scintillating, sparkling, and baby, you're a firework.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't date me either. My poor husband.
He might get burned. An exercise, which is kind of fun to play with, but, don't use this all the time. This shouldn't be your only route to creating characters. Find a list of personality traits by zodiac signs.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. For example, Allure magazine has a breakdown that I'm going to link in the show notes that's about personality traits. And it's if you're in a situation where you're stuck, you're on a deadline and you're out of ideas and you just need a little extra help filling out a character, try this.
Yes, I like this idea. I like this very much.
Yeah, I think this zodiac thing is probably a good exercise for this time around.
Cool.
Another thing to think about is naming characters. Take some time to think about when and where the person was born, what their family of origin is like, and how they want to seem to other people.
Okay.
Just for fun, there's always that stage that kids have when they're a teenager that they want to start being called something else. I love researching names.
Yeah.
I think they're fun.
Me too. I do love it as well. I must say I've written a short coming out with part of Madcap called Core, as in Apple Core, not the Sid James from Carry On. Core. And so, I was just looking up what different names mean in Apple in different languages, just because I thought that was relevant to the thrust of the main character, who was Kiri, actually, was the one I chose, which means apple, and Pomona is her last name, also meaning apple. So I love all that kind of thing, just playing with ideas.
That's a great name.
Yeah, I wonder if there's someone called that in the world. Maybe there is.
It's beautiful. Kiri Pomona. I love it. The Social Security Administration publishes a list of popular names by decade and by state. Fun fact, names often become popular in a 30-year cycle because people tend to name kids after their grandparents, aunts, or uncles.
Yes.
However, a friend of mine predicted Gloria would be a hot baby name for the early 2000s, and surprisingly enough, it was not.
Can I sing, please? Please, Lindsay. No? What other names can make you want to sing? I can think of, Mandy, Carolina, que sera. Okay, sorry.
Another one I like looking at for ideas is Bullfinch's mythology, and the Bible's always good.
Of course, amen.
Also, a website called godchecker.com.
What does that do exactly? Does it show you who the god of fingernails is?
Yes, it actually does. Godchecker.com, it tells you the names and powers of different deities from around the world. So let's say you have a character who runs a bar, or they're a brewer or a vintner, a winemaker. You can go to their search engine and type in beer, and you find all the deities related to beer and booze. So you find Ninkasi, the Sumerian goddess of beer and booze.
Cheers.
Naming her Ninkasi might be a little bit too obvious, but you can make up variations on the name, like Nina or Ninka or something like that.
Drinky poo.
Yep. This is just general idea generation stuff. My favorite little exercise is to name them after people from my childhood. I like to name female villains after my grade school bullies. Sometimes a name fits your story well because you're trying to telegraph something for the audience. For example, in the HBO version of Westworld, the heroine is a white girl from a small town in the Old West, but her name in Spanish, her name is Dolores, and in Spanish it means sorrow. And it turns out she has an awful lot to be sad about. And the guy who's trying to push his way in to find out what Westworld is really about is named Will.
Yeah.
Again, this is just general idea generation stuff to get you started on your way. You want a character's traits to be memorable without distracting from the rest of the story.
Yes.
To get back to character diversity again, I'm not going to get into all of the reasons why character diversity is important because there are other people who can elaborate on that more eloquently than I can. I'm going to cut straight to this one, like the heartless person I am, that's going to help your script writing the most.
Come on, Lindsay, hit us.
It makes it so much easier for your audience to understand what's happening because the voices sound different and they can track who's doing what. So please have scenes that include people of different ages, genders, backgrounds, races, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, when you say sound different, would you mind if I just break that down a little bit? So different paces, timbres, attitudes, the softness, the sharpness, the different gender, the ethnicity, the accent, the mood, and the emotion, just for starters.
Yes, all of that is good. So when you're making up your characters, bear that in mind.
We are all bare under our clothes.
It's a different kind of bear, Sarah.
Yeah.
Regionalism is great,
Indeed.
and it helps ground your story and make it even more visceral. Know where your story takes place and what people are like there. Yes, even in space, even in the future. If you watch The Orville, which hasn't been on for a few years, but they had something where some alien villain introduced himself and said, "My name is," or whatever it was.
Yes.
And the pilot said, God, there were so many in that generation. Like, had been the Jennifer of outer space.
I love it. And hooray for Jennifer's of outer space. I think class is also interesting, isn't it? I mean, that changes especially over the course of a person's lifespan, depending on when you were born and how and where. And it affects a lot more than we think it does, doesn't it? I mean, things like how much money you make and how much money or privilege you've had growing up and the effects of all the kinds of experiences that you've had, can have, and what you take for granted or don't really, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. One of the things we're thinking about is what's been available or influential to a character over the course of their lifespan. For example, if you look at John Hughes movies from the 80s, those kids don't have cell phones.
Yes.
Information travels differently in that world than it does now.
Yeah,
they don't have cameras. So in 16 Candles, Farmer Ted drives around town and wakes up his friends to make them get a picture of him with the passed out drunk prom queen because nobody would ever believe that she would be in the same car with him. Think about how much internet access these people have or how they get information, what kind of communication they have access to.
Yeah.
This can be really important in terms of how you shape your show. For example, if you listen to Homecoming, a lot of it took place over the phone.
True.
In the 1800s, people wrote letters for fun because they didn't feel like playing cards or whatever it was people did at those country houses on cold, wet
What I wouldn't
evenings.
give for a letter home from someone. Letters aren't anymore. And I'm going to say as well, thank goodness in a way that people of my generation probably are thinking, thank goodness there wasn't phones and pictures available around the time when we were younger, right? Am I right?
Oh, yeah. In the 90s.
Happy days.
Maybe that's why the 90s were the way they were.
Yeah, man. Let's leave them that way.
But yeah, I mean, another thing is to think about it in the 1800s. Rich people had their at-home days when they would get themselves all dressed up and do their hair and bathe and all the things they have to do and sit in their living room. And that was how they made themselves available to other people.
Yeah. Whereas now it's just interruptions from Zoom scheduled recordings, isn't it, really? But yeah, I mean, just think also how different those plots would be if they did have, the cell phones. I mean, gosh, films would be a minute long, wouldn't they? There's so many that would be so different if there was a mobile phone instead of having to use a fixed
like Psycho.
one. Yeah, Psycho.
Like Psycho.
Yeah.
Well, so much of that movie also takes place with landline telephones.
Yeah, very true.
Which has to do with sound and has to do with atmosphere and things like that.
Yes.
This is almost getting into world building, which I do not want to talk about.
Go on, Lindsay, some point soon. We can come.
I don't want to burden people. I don't want people to sit here saying, I have to play with this writing tool forever and ever. I want people to be able to move forward with their stories.
Yes, very important.
So speaking of moving forward with their stories, here's the writing exercise for this episode. So let's play with the zodiac. You're going to pick two signs, two zodiac signs that are about 6 months apart. For example, say Leo, which is July and August, and Capricorn, which is December and January.
That's me. Wait.
You're going to read the description of each sign, and you're going to write a brief character description for each.
Oh, okay, wait. Okay, Lindsay, why not? Let's do me and you, right? So I'm Capricorn, as I said. So what are you?
Okay, I'm a Scorpio.
Oh, deliciously saucy. Okay. Is that right? Smoldering.
Okay, so Capricorns are skilled at navigating both the material and emotional realms. They scale the steepest mountains. Capricorn rules the knees, making it easier for the sign to climb, while simultaneously exploring their psychic strengths.
I'm always on my knees.
Capricorns tap into their inner fortitude to overcome whatever stands between them and their long-term goals. Well, this sounds like you. And they don't let anything distract them from getting ahead.
Maybe.
Because of their unwavering focus, however, focus, Sarah. They are often perceived as cold and unemotional.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like you.
I can be. I think people find me daunting for some bizarre reason, so maybe that's right.
Okay. Sea goats must remember that not every success in life can be featured on a resume, and that compassion is as important as any professional advancement.
Aww. You can do.
You know who else was a Capricorn?
Who? Tell me.
Jesus.
Aww. But yeah, Jesus did accomplish a little bit more than I did.
He definitely did accomplish a lot. So interestingly, Capricorns are said to age backward. Having already endured hardships, Capricorns become increasingly youthful, optimistic, and playful as they mature.
Yes, play with me.
Indeed, inside every earnest Capricorn is a mischievous troublemaker. In tarot, Capricorn is symbolized by the devil card.
You should see
Though this earth sign may seem a bit conservative and restrained at first, Capricorn's closest friends and lovers know that these sea goats love to party.
Yes, all of my lovers love partying with me.
Capricorn is excellent at taking action and launching initiatives.
Like action reg.
Yes. Capricorn's can-do attitude leads to success in pretty much any industry.
Oh, money would be
While they're terrific leaders, they must also be mindful about their workaholic tendencies. It's important. You know what's also lovely about these zodiac things, about these zodiac descriptions is they're so picturesque in the way that they describe things, like climbing mountains and sea goats and things like that. Sea goats that climb mountains.
I can smell the open air and the salty sea.
Yeah, it gives you such a picture as you're creating that character.
I love it.
While they're terrific leaders, they must also be mindful about their workaholic tendencies. It's important for Capricorn to maintain a healthy work-life balance and avoid treating their friends and partners like their assistants. Resist the temptation to ask your partner to proofread that work email tonight, Cap, and connect with them on something other than what happened at the office.
I did demand that my husband bring me coffee in bed at the weekend, and he did. So maybe some of that does ring true, right? And he did. And I asked for it with a Cadbury's cream egg too. And this was like, 8:30 and 9 in the morning. And he brought me all of that. It was such a lovely start to a Sunday.
Oh, that's lovely.
But as I say, maybe, avoid treating them like their assistant. There's something ringing true here, Lindsay, but of course, it's all generic, right? It's all generic. I mean, I'm a tiger in the Chinese signs, and not just any tiger, I'm a wood tiger. So, I love all that.
Well, bear in mind.
Which bear? Bear or bear, Lindsay?
The Carrie bear.
Okay, good.
It's like a Care Bear, but it's a Carrie bear.
Lovely.
Imagine Carrie Fisher as a bear.
Oh,
that would be fun.
May she rest in peace.
So, wherever you get these zodiac personality descriptions is going to be biased based on whoever writes it.
Yeah.
For example, if it were me, I would say that Scorpios are clever and kind and thoughtful, but most people say that they're devious and evil and scheming.
Ooh.
And I don't claim that astrology is the truth, but it's a character recipe and it's fun to play with.
I do love a bit of character cooking. That's a great way of seeing it. And also, thank you, Lindsay, for sharing your expertise on all those character development things to explore. And I can't wait to share this tree analogy that someone told me in an audio drama hub virtual pub once, which is an interesting way of playing with the way characters speak too.
Oh, it's about the way characters speak.
Oh, don't tell everybody. It's a secret. We'll tell you when they're ready. We'll let them know.
Okay. Well, hopefully we will get to that. So feel free to email us any thoughts, ideas, good practice, or questions. Send them to writersadwit@gmail.com. And please follow our podcast. Click whatever follow button you need to make sure that these episodes automatically show up in your podcatcher of choice. And please share this podcast far and wide.
Have a wonderful week. We'll speak to you next week. Don't forget, get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yep. Happy writing. Avanti.
You lucky folks have been listening to the Audio Drama Writers Independent Toolkit, hosted by Sarah Golding and Lindsay Harris-Friel. Audio engineering, sound design, and music. Gorgeous music by Vincent Friel. Huzzahs! If you enjoyed what you heard, please do write us a review on Podchaser or on Apple Podcasts, or any podcatcher, quite frankly. We'd love to hear what you think. Or you can tweet about us if you like. Yes, our Twitter handle is @AdwitPodcast, and please do keep in touch. We'd love to know how you're getting on with all the exercises and more. Or if you just want to say hello, do that too. You can write to us at writersadwit@gmail.com, and for more information about what we're doing and what we're up to and how, visit our website at adwit.org. Thank you very much for listening, people. I hope you have a good day. Take care. Bye. Home. I recorded this at
Adwit is created and recorded on the unceded land of the Lenape Nation. To learn more about the Lenape, their history, and their culture, please visit their website at lenapenation.org. You can experience the online version of the museum exhibition, Fulfilling a Prophecy, the Past and Present of the Lenape in Pennsylvania, or you can visit the Lenape Nation Cultural Center and Trading Post in Easton, Pennsylvania. Thank you.
$6630 Productions.